Hi everybody, my name is Scott Walls. For over 25 years, I've deployed ERP applications for some of the world's largest organizations. During that time, I've taught thousands of people just like you how to discover, use, deploy, and support Oracle's back office software. In this lesson, I'm going to show you the out-of-the-box reporting options for the supplier registration application to include OTBI. Please note that this lesson is part of the Discover Procurement course. But before we get started, did you know that you could earn free discovery badges for display on your LinkedIn profile just by watching videos like this one? You can. Stay until the end of this video and I'll show you how. Okay, so let's get started. Key topics for this lesson are as follows: seated user, user homepage, application homepage, although we'll probably skip this because there isn't one. It's just a standard menu option here. Application search page, what we also call the manage page. And then lastly, we'll look at OTBI, or Oracle Transaction Business Intelligence. So again, it's worth noting that this out-of-the-box reporting video really talks about what options are available, either as delivered reports or close to that, where you can stitch something together quickly for a business user. So if you want to learn how to use or deploy, how to create queries or analysis or reports, or how to attach them to users or anything else that's a bit more technical, then you want to watch the use or deploy videos under those menus. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and jump out of the PowerPoint and jump into Fusion. And so start first with seated user. So you can see here, Calvin Roth is the seated user that we're going to use. Calvin has access to, as a procurement manager, has access to reg requests. So that makes sense. If for whatever reason you don't see what you want, May-Gee, M-A-Y-G-E-E is another good seated user. That's a supplier manager role. Okay, so now we are on Calvin's homepage. If we scroll down to the bottom of that homepage, then you'll see here's the source to settle infolets that Calvin has access to. They can be enabled or disabled here. And then you see the same thing in terms of some global defined application reports and analysis here. So these are just already created, can be enabled or disabled, different reports that Calvin has access to, and they're all driven off of Calvin's homepage, right? So that's the second one: seated user, user homepage. Now, the third is application homepage. These are standard videos. And since there is no, if we go to the procurement functional area, there isn't an application called registration. Registration is a publicly facing page. So we don't have that per se, but we do have a, air quotes, manage application search page. And so how we find that is we go down here to suppliers, we select suppliers, and this is going to take us to the supplier homepage. And we've talked about this in the supplier video, but if you open the task panel, you can see here manage supplier reg requests. So if we select that, it takes us to a variation of what we usually see with the basic search and an advanced search, and you can save the search to be this or that. And so we can see that here, but there's just one bit of search. You fill these out, click search. That will return results down here. Again, all of these different results can be moved and migrated. All of the different fields can be added. If you go here, columns, you can add or subtract. So if I wanted to remove business relationship, I just deselect that. Once I get the fields and the results I like, I can export those to Excel. So that's kind of like creating a report there. So we've talked seated user, we've talked about the user homepage. There is no app page. We've talked about the manage reg request or application search page. And then lastly, we want to take a look at OTBI. And so since there isn't a reports folder here, what we have to do is we can go to the nav bar in the upper left, and that's going to open a series of different options. And if we go, oops, sorry, I'm sorry, I went to clicked the wrong one. If I go and open tools and I select reports and analytics, what's going to happen is it takes me to the OTBI page. I can either manually find my data sources, meaning tables, and create queries. But if you don't really know that, then you don't want to start there. You want to go to Wizard, create report or analysis. So we're going to create just a query. And since we want to go with supplier registration, I probably want to look at what registration options are available. Let's try something slightly different. Let's try this with, okay, so neither of those two worked. What I can do then is I can always do this the old-fashioned way and scroll down. Now I know this data pretty well, so I also know that if we just go down to where it says suppliers, so the S, then we'll see here's qualification, and registration here in real time. Select that, that's my data source. And so that's gonna give me, right, so really what happens here is, what's nice is that OTBI, if you think about the pages, there's lots of different tables, and we wouldn't know those tables, and you'd have to know SQL, you'd have to know how to do inner join, outer join, etc. Oracle makes that a lot easier. It's going to do all the work, the heavy lifting for joining the tables together for you. And so all you need to do is find the right object, in this case registration, and it tells you here's the addresses, the bank accounts, the classifications, company details. So I now have some information. I could go to my reg request, I can get counts, approvals, I can go to the details if I want to get, let's say, the number, right? I'd have to scroll down here, justification. You know, so I've got some different data values here that are all part of my reg request. I can ask, or rather, I can move these particular details out here. Here's my request date, and just double click, or I can highlight anything and then have it brought into here. I can take these values, move them up and where I want to see them, and I just roll through the different steps or train stops in the wizard process to produce ultimately what looks like those infolets that we saw in the user homepage. So that's kind of how you do this in OTBI, right? So once again, we went through the seated user, the user homepage. There was no app homepage. We walked through the manage supplier reg request transactions page, and we just walked through OTBI here. These queries get saved. They can be saved in your own folder. But again, this isn't a video on how to do OTBI in the wizard. You can see that under the use or the deploy menu options on fusionx.io. So those are the out-of-the-box reporting options for the supplier registration application within Oracle Fusion. Hopefully you've learned something. Thank you. Okay. As promised, here are the 5 steps you can perform today to start earning free badges for your LinkedIn profile. Step 1, navigate to Panameer.com and either sign in or join now. It's free. Step 2, in the upper left, under the Discover menu, select the course that you want to watch and get badged for. Step 3, watch all of the different video lessons in that course. Step 4, when it's complete, send your LinkedIn profile and the course you watched and your user ID to badges@Panameer.com. And then sit back and wait for step 5 when we attach a badge to your LinkedIn profile.